Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video we are going to talk about Warhammer 40,000, and in particular we're looking at the Necrons and their Obeisance Phalanx detachment. Now in this video we're going to look at how to get started with this particular detachment for the Necrons. We'll look at the army rule first of all before going through the enhancements and stratagems for this detachment. Then we'll look at a couple of units we recommend to get started with the detachment before looking at some other units we can use to expand upon those first few initial purchases. And finally, we'll finish off the video with a little sample army list of 1,000 points for you to use, hopefully as some inspiration for starting your own force of the Necrons using the Obeisance Phalanx detachment in Warhammer 40,000. And so, to begin with, we have the Reanimation Protocols rule. This is the army rule for Necrons. What this does is, if your army faction is Necrons, at the end of your command phase, each unit from your army with this ability that is on the battlefield activates its Reanimation Protocols and reanimates D3 wounds. Each time such a unit reanimates a wound, it first of all will heal any models within the unit back up to full wounds, and then if all models are at their starting number of wounds, and the unit is below its starting strength, you can return one model with one wound remaining. You'd then go on to heal any models that would be brought back in this way before bringing another model back to the unit. Once such a unit is at its starting strength and all models have their starting number of wounds, nothing further will happen with the wounds and the ability, because you just can't go above your starting strength. Today's video is brought to you by Gap Games, a fantastic retailer in Australia for a variety of different miniature war games. If you'd like to help support the channel, we have an affiliate link where by clicking on and purchasing, you'll help support the channel, but you'll also help support Gap Games, which is a fantastic servant to the community. And so, as I said, we are going to look at the Obeisance Phalanx. This is definitely a very character-heavy sort of detachment, sort of focusing around the Necron overlords and their most loyal subjects, so their Lich Guard and stuff like that. And what this does is we have the detachment rule, Worthy Foes. In your command phase, you select one enemy unit on the battlefield. Until the start of your next command phase, each time an Overlord, Lich Guard, or Triarch unit from your army makes an attack that targets that unit, you simply add one to the wound roll. This is a pretty solid ability. Getting bonuses to wound is nice, and Necrons generally have a good way to get some bonuses to hit, and lots of the units in here that we're talking about, Overlords, Lich Guard, and Triarchs, all hit pretty well anyway. We then have 4 enhancements, all of which are for Overlord models only. Now the first one is Honorable Combatant. Each time the bearer's unit destroys an enemy character, your opponent loses or 1 command point if they have any. That's a really nice little ability. It does require you to, actually destroy something with your unit, but solid nonetheless. Unflinching Will, the bearer's melee weapons have the precision and anti-infantry 5+ abilities. Warrior Noble, the Overlord model only. Each time a melee attack targets the bearer's unit, you subtract 1 from the hit roll. That's probably one of my favourite ones there. I think we'll see a decent amount of play. Always just making your units -1 to hit is good regardless. An Eternal Conqueror, each time a model in the bearer's unit targets an enemy unit that's in range of an objective, you can re-roll the hit roll. I think Eternal Conqueror is probably my go-to though, because you stick that onto an Overlord that's joined a decent unit, and then obviously you can re-roll your hit rolls against an enemy unit, and you've selected that to be the Worthy Foe, so you add 1 to the wound rolls as well. So getting re-rolls to hit and +1 to wound against one enemy unit that you really need destroyed is a solid little combo in my head. And so moving on, we then have our stratagems. There are 6 of them, like always with the new detachments, and there are 3 battle tactic ones, which will become important, especially in this particular sort of army. Now, we have the first one, which is your time is 9 for a single CP. This is effectively after your opponent's warlord is destroyed, your warlord uses it, and this means that your opponent will take any battle shock and leadership test for the rest of the game at -1. A pretty cool little ability if you can get your opponent sort of character killed early on. Making and forcing checks at a lower leadership is decent. Enslave Artifice is something you use in your shooting phase or the fight phase. You select a Necron unit from your army, excluding Triarch units that has been selected to shoot or fight in that phase, and you score critical hits on a 5+, another solid ability. Nano Assembly Protocols means you're -1 damage on any Necron vehicle you use this in, and this is used in your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase. Sentinels of Eternity, the fight phase just after an enemy unit is selected as targets, and you pick a Lich Guard or Triarch Praetorian unit from your army that was selected as a target, and this effectively allows them to potentially fight on death. Suffer No Rival is another battle tactic one, a Lich Guard or Triarch unit from your army that's not been selected to fight, they gain precision. And Territorial Obsession, which I think is a really cool one, gives you some extra objective control on Lich Guard and Triarch Praetorian units. And so, where to begin with for your Necron force? And the place I recommend to start with, obviously as a character, is going to be the Necron's Overlord. This has a brand new miniature, actually has a couple of different miniatures you can pick up. You can pick one up with the Tachyon Arrow, which is a one-shot sort of super damage weapon. But for me, you want to drop that because you want this model here, you want the Sempiternal Weave, but you want that Resurrection Orb for the ability of once per game to just do a D6 heal on the units that you are attached to. Now, Necron Overlords also have My Will Be Done, where they can freely use some of the battle tactic stratagems on their own unit for free or per each round. And you've also got Impeccable Resilience, where each time an attack is allocated to this model, you subtract one from the attack's damage characteristic as well, which can be really nice. Now, like I said, you've got some other options. If you go with the Resurrection Orb, you're going to get the option of either a Staff of Light, which is going to provide you with some shooting and combat prowess, but the Void Staff is going to give you devastating wounds in combat, or the Overlord's Blade. Both of them are going to be pretty nice. You're going to get more attacks with the Overlord Blade, but you will drop to Strength 8 instead of Strength 12, which you'll have with that Void Staff. Now, joining the Overlord, we are going to look at Triarch Praetorians first. Now, the way these units work, you might think Lich Guard might be the best unit to pick up first, but if we are picking up, boxes slowly, and you're playing a more sort of slow growth thing with your mate, maybe you've only got a character and a unit on the table to begin with, I would pick up Triarch Praetorians first. If you're sort of buying a large army straight from the get-go, this doesn't really matter. But I think if you're sort of more slowly getting into it, this is probably a unit to pick up first out of the two. And the reason for this is that I think they're just a bit more universally better in multiple phases. They have some decent shooting with their Rods of the Covenant, which I particularly like. Strength 5, minus 2 AP, damage 2 at range, and the same thing in melee. They've also got Relentless Combatants, where they can reroll charge rolls for them, and they're eligible to charge in a turn in which they fell back as well. Now, the reason this is, just the shooting here is just going to make them that little bit more versatile in these early sort of parts of your collection, and that's why I'd suggest them first. Now, looking at where to go next, obviously, Lich Guard are going to be the other unit we really have a big look at, and they just don't have shooting, so that's why I suggested the Triarch Praetorians, but they do have some really powerful hit. Their War Size, devastating wounds at Strength 8, minus 3 AP, damage 2, and Guardian Protocols as well allows you to subtract one from wound rolls while there's a noble model in the unit of which your Overlord is, so a really good, solid defensive unit. Now, they do have the option for Dispersion Shields and Hyperphase Swords. This will drop their strength to 6 and the damage to 1 of their attacks, but they will get a 4-up invulnerable save. Now, another way you can bring your Necron Lords to the force is through the Catacomb Command Barge, which I think in this particular force is going to be really nice to take. Now, the Catacomb Command Barge is a vehicle, so it's got access to a couple of the stratagems we were reading about. The Resurrection Orb there is once per game. You can do a heal on the board, which is really cool. And then you've also got things like the Carrier Weave, where friendly Necron models can get extra objective control near it, and advanced quantum shooting as well. Each time an attack targets the model, the strength of the attack is greater than the toughness. You subtract it by 1, which is really, really nice. Now you've got, options in combat. This thing can have an Overlord's Blade in combat, so it still can be a pretty decently fighty thing. On top of having the options for Staff of Light, if it wants a bit of range and shooting. And then it's also got, its standard sort of weaponry as well. You can have a Gauss cannon on it, or you can have the Tesla cannon as well. Now, of course, Catacomb Command Badge. This thing boosts the fact that we've got objective control, so why not make one of the best units we have in the table for sitting on objectives even better, and that is Necron Warriors. Necron Warriors are just really hard to shift to begin with, and the fact that you can make them extra objective control, can make them objective control 3, is really nice. They can re-roll the reanimation dice whenever they do, thanks to their numbers Legion rule. And they do have lethal hits on most of their attacks as well at range, all of them, but they don't have anything really to talk about in combat though. The last unit though I do want to take a look at is something that I think goes nicely along with a couple of the different stratagems you can pick, and that is a Psychomancer. Now, the Psychomancer's big thing is that he's going to be able to sort of affect bravery and leadership nearby. So enemy units within 6 inches of this have to test for battle shock in every command phase if they're below starting strength, and do so at -1 to the test. And the Harbinger of Despair, 18 inch, means you're at -1 leadership at the start of any phase and battle shock. So pretty cool. This just allows you to sort of push through some of the stratagems, especially if you can get your opponent's warlord nice and early. It's going to be a really nice little extra piece. And what's cool about the different crypt deck models, they actually join a unit the Overlord's already in. So you can push this piece up the table with your Overlord and say a big unit of Lich Guard. And so here we have our sample army list, nice and simple here. We have the Catacomb Command Barge, really equipped as how you want to have it. It's probably not going to see combat all that often, it's probably going to be sitting at the back. So that's why I probably prefer the Staff of Light, just giving me a few extra shots. The Resurrection Orb is a must on it. And then we have an Overlord with the Overlord's Blade and Resurrection Orb there as well. Strength 12 can be nice, and maybe you do want to go for the War Scythe on the model, because you are probably lacking anti-tank in this. It's probably where I would go building this force after the first 1000s, add in some actual anti-tank. A unit of 20 Necron warriors there to sit with the Catacomb Command Barge and just be absolutely hard to shift. And then 10 Lich Guard and 10 Triarch Praetorians will round out the force. Now we are at 975 points here at the moment. At the time of posting this, the points haven't been released for all the different enhancements and stuff, so you've got a bit of points to play around with there if you want to for some enhancements for your force. But if you've got some ideas on how you build up your own Obeisance Phalanx detachment, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And so, that's the end of the video. We hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below, letting us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our great little community here, we have a Discord server linked down in the video's description, and also linked down there are the best ways to help support the channel as well. Our Patreon and YouTube members down there are fantastic ways to help support the channel, and if you'd like to get a shout out like all these people, you can go and join up today. So with that said, we'd like to give a shout out to all our Patreon and YouTube members. So thank you to our Patreons: Rob B, Broken Chef, Andy C, Grimscold, Colorblind Magic, Benjamin Swallows, James Cater, Mark Harvey, Domir, Average Wargamer, Q Damak, Andrew Bowen, Outer and Shot First, Kenny Lowe and Soren, and to our YouTube members: Green Roots Gaming, Ronya, Lock Lorick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, James Tillman, Disco, John Castle, and Gargamel196. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.